In the heart of the wild, a mother leopard and her cub face a life-or-death struggle. What happens when help arrives? Watch this incredible rescue unfold. If you were moved by this story, drop a comment, like, and subscribe to join our journey of wildlife rescue. In the heart of southern Africa, just beyond the borders of the Great Solar Game Reserve, lived a man known for his unyielding devotion to the wild. Thabo Nkosi, a veteran veterinarian, had spent his life protecting the animals that roamed the vast savannas and dense forests of the region. Each day, he drove the rugged roads leading from his humble home in the town of Zimbali, a peaceful community nestled at the edge of the reserve. The road stretched out for miles, surrounded by endless stretches of dry grass and the occasional acacia tree. Thabo had made this journey for over a decade, and yet each time, the sights and sounds of the wilderness filled him with a renewed sense of purpose. That particular morning, with the sun barely touching the horizon, Thabo drove with a quiet anticipation. There was a coolness to the air, a fleeting calm before the heat of the day would take hold. As he passed the familiar stretch of road lined with thorny bushes, a strange sight caught his attention, a flash of golden fur lying motionless by the roadside. Pulling the vehicle to a stop, Thabo's heart began to race. His eyes locked onto the form of a large leopard, her body contorted and clearly in distress. Beside her, a smaller, younger leopard cowered, its eyes wide with terror. It was clear to Thabo that something terrible had befallen these animals. He could see the bloodstains on the ground and the way the mother's body trembled, caught in an agonizing trap of barbed wire. The cub's frantic cries echoed through the still morning air, piercing the silence. For a moment, Thabo's mind raced. A wild leopard, a mother no less, could be a dangerous adversary. Yet, Thabo knew instinctively that he had to act. The road was quiet, save for a few passing vehicles, none of which stopped. Without hesitation, Thabo leapt from his truck, his boots thudding softly against the earth as he approached. As Thabo approached the leopards, he could see the extent of the mother's injury. The sharp barbs of the wire were cruelly embedded in her flesh, causing deep, bloody wounds that had left her near immobile. Her breathing was shallow, and Thabo could feel the tension in the air. The cub, eyes wide with fear, stood by her side, crying out in distress. But Thabo had a gift, a connection to the creatures he treated. He had been a veterinarian for many years and had learned that the wild animals of Africa, though dangerous and fierce, responded to care and calmness. He knelt slowly, speaking to them in a low, soothing voice. "It's all right," he whispered, his deep, calming tone cutting through the cub's cries and the mother's whimpers. "I'm here to help you." The cub, initially tense, began to quiet, sensing the sincerity in Thabo's voice. The mother leopard, though still in agony, allowed Thabo to get closer. Her golden eyes, filled with pain and confusion, met his, and in that moment, an unspoken trust was forged between man and beast. Thabo gently reached into the back of his truck, retrieving his medical kit, a collection of tools and supplies honed for just such an emergency. But he knew the first thing he needed was to calm the leopard, to ensure he wouldn't provoke her into an attack. He spoke softly, his hands extended slowly toward the mother's head. She growled weakly, the sound faint and unsure, but Thabo continued to approach. He pressed his palm to her forehead, a gentle touch that seemed to soften her resistance. Her growl faded, and the cub, now huddled close to its mother, ceased its cries, sensing that the danger had passed. With the leopard's calm, Thabo began his work. He could see the severity of the wound, the wire tightly wrapped around the mother's body, digging into her skin with every move she made. His heart ached as he examined the barbed wire, knowing how much pain the leopard must be in. Each time she shifted, a new wave of agony must have rushed through her. Thabo carefully positioned himself, aware of the weight of the situation. If he wasn't careful, even the slightest misstep could set the leopard off, or worse, cause more injury. He reached for his wire cutters, the sharp metal clinking slightly as he tightened his grip. As he cut the first strand of wire, the mother shuddered, a deep, low growl emanating from her throat. But Tabo kept speaking in that soft, steady voice, whispering assurances. His hands moved with precision, clipping away each piece of the wire, his mind focused entirely on the task at hand. The mother winced, her body trembling with pain, but she did not resist. The cub watched, its eyes wide, a mixture of confusion and understanding. The sun had risen higher in the sky now, and sweat began to bead on Tabo's brow. But he did not stop. He continued to cut away the sharp, dangerous wires, each movement bringing him closer to freeing the mother from her torment. The sounds of the wires snapping in the still morning air echoed like a quiet reminder of the danger that lurked in the wild. Tabo's gloves were soaked in blood, his hands stained from the work, but he persisted. Every time the mother winced, the cub would nuzzle her side, its small head rubbing against her in a gesture of comfort. Tabo paused, glancing at the cub, and for a brief moment, he saw a reflection of his own bond with the animals he had spent his life protecting, a silent, powerful connection. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last piece of wire fell away, and the mother leopard lay free. Her body was bloodied, her wounds deep, but the worst was over. Tabo stood back, wiping his brow, his heart pounding with both relief and exhaustion. Tabo moved quickly to clean the wounds. He had antiseptic, bandages, and a special ointment to soothe the mother's pain. As he gently applied the ointment and wrapped the wounds, the mother leopard, though still in pain, relaxed, allowing him to work. The cub, now calmer, watched its mother with curious eyes, occasionally glancing at Tabo, who continued to work with careful precision. After a few minutes, Tabo placed a small portion of meat on the ground. At first, the mother hesitated, sniffing the air, but hunger eventually overcame her caution. The cub pounced on the meat, devouring it with urgency, and the mother followed suit, slowly but steadily eating to regain her strength. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Tabo stood by, watching the two leopards eat, their once anguished expressions now softer, filled with gratitude. As the mother leopard finished, she stood up, her legs unsteady, but she was no longer trapped by the agony of the barbed wire. The cub trotted beside her, and together they moved into the dense bush, vanishing from sight. Before disappearing into the forest, the mother looked back at Tabo, her eyes meeting his in a silent thank you. Tabo stood there for a moment, his heart heavy with emotion. The bond between man and wild animal had never been so clear. He had risked his own safety to save a life, and in return, he had received something more powerful than words, the trust of a wild creature. After collecting the barbed wire and making sure the area was clear, Tabo climbed back into his truck. As he continued on his journey to the Solar Medical Center, he knew that the work was never truly done. There would be more animals in need, more injuries to treat, and more lives to save. But today, he had made a difference. When Tabo arrived at the center, his colleagues immediately recognized the exhaustion in his eyes, but they also saw the quiet satisfaction that lingered there. He quickly reported the incident, urging them to inspect the area for any other hazards that might threaten the animals. For Tabo, the work was never about recognition. It was about the deep, silent connection between humans and the creatures of the wild. As he washed the blood from his hands, he smiled softly to himself. The grateful eyes of the mother leopard would stay with him forever. Tabo's act of kindness towards the wounded leopard and her cub reminds us of the deep connection we share with the wild. In moments like these, compassion has the power to heal and change lives. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share to help us continue spreading awareness and telling more stories that inspire change. Thank you for being part of this journey.